What's up everybody, welcome back to Krebsbach Racing. Today is another Stupid Stuff Saturday. Actually it's not, but I might as well call it that because we're going to take the Evo 9 wheel-to-wheel racing in Gridlife's GLTC series. Now this car is used to being a 600 horsepower time attack car, and sometimes we run it in autocross as well with a different turbo setup. There's going to be quite a few changes that we need to make on the car, so let's hop right into it and show you guys what we changed. Now you can run any car you want in this series as long as it fits the rules. Now the biggest rules are it needs to be 12.5 to 1 power to weight ratio. So we need to get this car down to about 240 horsepower, which is going to be the toughest part. You can run front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all wheel drive, and there's a bunch of different modifiers that you use as percentages. You can take hits for aero, for weight, tires, all that kind of stuff. So the biggest part for us is going to be getting down to power with the built motor and the bigger turbo. So we're going to switch down to the Evo 9 turbo. So this is my stock Evo 9 turbo that I bought the car with. And Ronnie has made a turbo restrictor right here, which goes on the inlet of the turbo, and it restricts air into the inlet of the turbo right here. So hopefully that's going to be enough to get our power down to 242 horsepower, but we'll still have enough to get all the horsepower we need up top in the 8,000 RPM range, and we'll have a nice flat curve from about 3,500 RPMs all the way to 8,000. The other mods include a front roll cage just for safety, a window net as well. Added a fire extinguisher along with rewards weight just in case we actually end up winning something. Added a shield around my oil tank. We also needed rain lights that blinks when you turn the lights on and then goes solid when you hit the brakes, just in case we run into some water. I made a new front splitter. We are allowed to make a flat one that extends only 3 inches beyond the front bumper, so that's what I made. We're running Koenig 18x11s with 275, 35, 18 Nexons, along with the Cognition rear wing as always. We also added a rear crash bar behind the bumper and front bumper, just for a little added safety if we end up tapping anybody. So we are all loaded up and ready to head to MA Performance because they have an all-wheel drive dyno jet, which is what we need to use for compliance. So we'll head down there to get dyno tuned. Now we're trying to tune it down to 242 horsepower, which is a little bit difficult as it's a built motor. The stock turbo is fairly big for making that kind of horsepower. It's actually under stock. So we have Ronnie inside doing some tunes, and we're going to do 3 different tunes on it for rewards weight. So let's see how it goes. We're using a couple different ways to try to get down to power. I do have drive-by-wire, so we're using that. We're closing the throttle body at wide open throttle, so we're only about 30% open. So right now we've gotten down to 242 horsepower right here. We're having trouble getting this dip out after cutting off the turbo. It's having some trouble keeping that power in there, but the rest of it's looking pretty smooth. Ronnie's just got to do a few more pulls and get it smoothed out, and then we'll work on the lower tunes. Then we're also using the boost controller to try to limit boost as much as we can. It proved to be a pretty difficult situation. Anytime you would move throttle body, boost would change, so it kind of just went back and forth a lot. As you can see, we've chopped the dip down just a little bit right here. We're at about 240 horsepower, but we're making 250 kind of when the turbo is full, so we're trying to cut that off just a little bit without losing the power right afterwards. So we have the first tune built at 241 horsepower. Did 3 back-to-backs and they're all within spec here. So we're working on our second one. We need to shoot for 234 horsepower. So Ron's making another throttle tune for that. Alright, we got everything packed up. We got all 3 of our dyno tunes done. Everything went well, everything went smooth, no issues with the car. So we're packed up and ready to head to Gingerman, where we can start our first GLTC race. So we'll see you guys there. Alright, this is our 3rd practice session out. We're dealing with one big issue mainly. I noticed as soon as I got in the car and started driving it around track that the lag from the turbo, due to the restrictor and the throttle body only opening 30%, We have a big lag in between shifts, and then anytime you're on and off the throttle, there's a big lag of power. So we're trying to tune that out. This is still another practice session, so we're still messing with stuff, but we get a good lap here. I'll let you guys watch this one, and then we'll pick it up when the timer goes off. And we just completed a lap with a 139.8, so we have officially broken the 140 barrier, which is pretty quick for a car with only 240 horsepower. We are dealing with another issue here. As you can hear, the car is making some weird shutter issue, and I don't know what it is. It felt like a driveline issue when I was driving it. Later on, we checked on the data log, and whatever Ron had done to try to get the turbo to spool a little quicker between shifts, the throttle body really didn't know what to do, and it was actually fluttering back and forth like 20% to 60%, just up and down, up and down, up and down the entire time. So I was actually probably a little over horsepower on this run, but we did go back to the other tune for qualifying, so that's up next. Now it was about 90 degrees this weekend, and we were having some temperature issues. Here we have intake air temp in the blue. Stayed pretty good, stayed around 105 the whole time. This is about 3 or 4 laps. We also have oil temp. Oil temp was my main issue. As you can see, it starts at about 150 and just keeps climbing with really no stopping in sight. We got up to about 230 here after 3 or 4 laps. And as soon as oil passes coolant is about 195 here. As soon as that passes, it starts bringing coolant with it. So I had prefabbed up an oil cooler set up before I left just in case this happened. So I had the bungs already welded on the tank. I had a pump. I had the oil cooler and fan already set up kind of, so I just needed to install it. So I threw that on before qualifying just to make sure we could make laps and we didn't have any cooling problems. One thing I love that the Gridlife staff has always done is they always tell you to check your helmet before you go out on track, and sure enough they caught me. I didn't have my helmet buckled, so hurry up and get it done. Make sure you do that before you take off. It could create a lot of problems, could crash. But luckily we got her on and we're on our way. Had me try one more thing to try to get the turbo to spool a little better, and immediately on the first straight I can tell that I am just freight training this guy. I'm probably 50 horsepower over right now. You can see me shake my head a little bit. Boost should be around 7 psi, 8 psi, and I think I saw 13 when I looked down, so we're gonna have to pull in real quick. This is qualifying. We got to put the other tune back on and get out there and try to make a flyer. So I go grab my computer and hook it up to the ECU and change it just back to the stock tune that we had for the 241 horsepower that we had at map. No messing with the throttle bar or anything. We really just need to get a lap in. The rules state that if you come in and change anything, you have to forfeit any prior lap times, which is fine. We didn't make a lap time anyways. We just need to get out there and make a flyer so we can qualify for the race.
One of the newcomers, though, Krebsbach in a 2006 Mitsubishi Lancer, car number 21. It's one of, I think, the first really competitive all-wheel drive builds here in this series race. A lot of cars, rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive. It's rare to see all-wheel drive, and this car was 4th in practice this morning.
Unfortunately, we only got one lap in qualifying, and we qualified 25th with a 142.5. The leaders were in the low 139s. Now, this weekend is really just turning into a mess with tuning issues and temperature issues. So it's going from basically let's try to be competitive to let's just get through the weekend and see if we can get some laps in, get some experience in wheel-to-wheel racing. So we are lined up for race number 1. The goal here is just to stay away from everybody, kind of. Don't get any accidents, don't bump anybody. Take advantages when there is some to pick from, but basically just get through the race and see if we can have some fun. We have survived our first lap of wheel-to-wheel racing. Nothing too bad happened. A little side-by-side with a few people. Julio is one everybody told me to kind of look out for. He's in the 350Z just ahead of us, so kind of watching him a little bit, seeing what he's doing. Trying to make a move on Lena here. There's plenty of opportunities, but I'm just a little gun-shy. Trying to stay safe, stay away from everybody. Cars taking lines all over the place here, and we get 3 wide just about here, and I kind of back off a little bit. Never know what's going to happen there, but being a little too cautious in the first race. I did catch myself doing this a couple times during the race. had him turned in a little bit early, and I basically just had tunnel vision and followed him right through it. Need to be aware of that in future races. It's one thing I'm just not used to, following these guys so close. Another thing to be aware of is my oil temp still seems to be going up and up. It's a lot slower now, but still going up and taking coolant with it. Coolant's about 218 now, oil is 230, and I am aware of that as I'm driving. One thing to think about is you really can't be worrying about the car at all when you're doing wheel-to-wheel racing. I'm kind of keeping my eye on the temp, so I'm really not 100% focused on driving, which you need to be. You need to be aware at all times of what's going on around you. You can't be looking at your gauges and stuff like that. So it's something I need to fix for future races for sure. After this race, all of the racers I talked to said this is one of the hottest races they've ever done. It was about 92, 94, something like that outside, about 4 in the afternoon. The sun is just beating down on the track. It is very warm out, so everybody was running a little hot during this race. Now this is my first time ever going more than 2 laps in a row, so we're on lap number 4. The brakes seem to be handling very well. No brake fade or anything like that, so I have plenty of confidence in the braking areas. The handling, we are understeering a little bit, but throughout the race it doesn't really seem to get much worse. Maybe need a spring change or some alignment settings in the rear, just to stiffen up the rear a little bit and get the front to be a little more pointy. Definitely tell that I'm slower than most in this area. This is where the Evo is going to struggle in these long sweepers. You can see the S2000 kind of pull quite a bit of space there. That can be fixed with a little bit of handling too. If we can get that rear end to rotate just a little bit better, I'll be able to carry a little more speed through there. Now Lena gets a little bit of sideways coming out of 10B, so I get a little run on the back straight. We're going to pull alongside and try to make a pass on the inside going into 11. It is a little tough. The front end is, like I said, giving way first, so it's tough to get the inside. You're really going to have to use that front end. So I brake just a hair later and over slow just a little bit. Just kind of a lack of confidence. I don't think the front end's going to grip as well as when we get to the middle of the corner, so made it through. It was my first attempt at a pass, and we didn't hit anybody. am pretty happy with the Nexans. They don't seem to be getting too greasy, especially with the hot temps. It's my first time on them. They're a little less grip and stuff than the AL52s that I normally run, but definitely a decent tire. Even afterwards I checked the tire and they didn't seem to be wearing uneven. Another area where I could have had an opportunity. Did the same thing again, kind of followed all these cars a little wide. Could have gotten the inside like I normally do, but just pushed a little bit too hard, broke a little bit too late, and lost all my momentum coming out of 10. Now the temps are getting pretty high. We're at oil temp 250, which isn't a huge deal, but with this car, for whatever reason, it seems to ring coolant up. Coolant is at 221. I am getting a little bit of smoke in the car right about now. My feet and legs are on fire, all that heat coming from the firewall. I'm not used to this at all. I'm not sure if that's normal or not, but everything, it just feels like the car is on fire almost right now. And with getting a little bit of smoke in the car, I'm not sure what's going on. Nothing on the gauges or anything other than the high temps, so I start to slow down just a little bit and try to figure out what's going on. Now we only have about one lap left in the race, but I decided to pull in anyways at the end of this lap just to figure out what's going on with the car. I will end up starting last in the next race, but I'm not sure what's going on with the car, so I don't want to start a fire, burn down the car or anything like that, so let's get it in and see what's going on. Now we found out the car was smoking out of both breathers and the exhaust, and this is what we found later when we opened up the engine. We had cracked the number 3 piston in half. What a stupid failure. It's basically a manufactured defect. They tried telling me that this only happens on time attack cars that downshift into really high revs. I don't really believe them. There's no signs of heat or anything, like the piston was melting or anything like that. It's just cracked all the way across and almost all the way through. So luckily it didn't damage the cylinder bores or anything like that, but we do have to rebuild the engine now. And to add insult to injury, we ordered new pistons, the same exact part number and everything from CP. And they are a little bit bigger than they were before. I don't know if they changed the tolerances on them, but they do not fit. So instead of just replacing pistons, we have to take the entire engine out, re-bore it, re-ring it for the new pistons. What a pain in the ass. So this weekend basically sucked. We ran the car at 240 horsepower. We got into the first race, made it about 3/4 of the way through, and cracked a piston. Just dumb luck, shouldn't have happened. I was really looking forward to seeing what this car could do in GLTC. I'm pretty sure it can be like a top 10 car. I don't know if it can win, but it would have been a lot more fun just to see how the races progressed as I got a little more comfortable with everybody being around me. It's my first wheel-to-wheel race, and that's always going to be a tough one. Just figuring out how everybody brakes, how close you can get to cars, just getting more comfortable with everybody on track. I'm not sure if we're going to do more races with this car. We do have to rebuild the motor. It's going to take some time. It's the middle of June right now, so the rest of the season is looking pretty grim. We'll see if we can pick this back up next year. As for now, I don't know what the plans are for the car. If we go back to Time Attack, keep doing autocross, or go for GLTC again. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Let me know what you guys think on the GLTC Evo. If we should keep going with it, should we scrap it, go back to Time Attack? Let me know what you guys think.